going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you all had a great day. A lot of areas saw a lot of rain today that really need the rain, including areas like the Eastern Carolinas and places like that. My specific location didn't see no measurable rain at all. It was very frustrating. So I'm hoping tomorrow areas see rain that did not see it today. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the potential for severe weather tomorrow. So tomorrow, I think there's going to be more widespread storms and a more wider area, but the threat for severe weather is going to be much more elevated. So that's what we're going to break down in this video, and we're really going to talk about the possibility for some damaging winds and even some isolated tornadoes. There was actually a tornado warned storm today in North Carolina, in eastern North Carolina, that had a confirmed tornado on it. Apparently, I believe it was a police officer or something confirmed actually seeing a tornado, and that's pretty rare for a general risk. It wasn't even a marginal risk of severe storm weather today in that area. So obviously we'll probably get more reports out of that area today. I can't tell you the town it was near. I know it was in eastern North Carolina, but very odd, definitely. So we're going to break this down. If you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. It's a great way to support me. Growth is pretty slow right now, but we're getting closer and closer to hurricane season, so things are going to pick up with an expected active hurricane season. So definitely consider subscribing, like the video if you like it. So let's get going here. So the Storm Prediction Center, huge area of a level 1 out of 5 risk, which is the dark green. That's a marginal. You got this pretty decently big area, including almost just around Roanoke, all the way north up to areas of New York State. So that includes Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, almost New York City, a pretty big slew of the mid-Atlantic and the coastal areas. So this is a pretty big deal. I don't expect an outbreak of storms, but I'm telling you right now, I really would not be surprised to see some isolated tornadoes tomorrow. No kind of tornado outbreak or anything, but the severe weather threat is definitely going to be there, all the way from almost Birmingham, Alabama, all the way up to Vermont and New Hampshire and places like that, almost Maine. So it's a pretty huge area. The tornado threat is pretty low. It's 2% in that slight area. Wind threat is going to be the highest threat tomorrow. What's going on is you have a weakening cold front, basically, and a short wave kind of riding that and riding the boundary, and that is going to deliver some severe weather to this area. So let's talk about what it's going to look like potentially off radar tomorrow. So here we go. We're getting into this evening, into the overnight hours. One thing I want to note is there's going to be rain and potentially storms around even throughout the night for the same areas that potentially could see severe weather tomorrow. So I think a lot of areas that are supposed to see the worst weather tomorrow are going to wake up to a lot of cloud cover. What that does is that acts to basically, when you have clouds, you have lack of sun. When you have sun, it helps to destabilize the atmosphere. So if you're getting a lot of clouds and it's remaining cloudy pretty late into the morning, into the early afternoon hours, that might decrease the chances for severe weather. Any kind of sun tomorrow, really anywhere from Georgia all the way up into the Northeast, is going to spell bad news for severe weather in this area tomorrow. So this is around late morning. As we're getting going through in time, here comes the shortwave bringing the activity. You have to watch out for these renegade cells that really pop up here, even in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. Any kind of renegade cells could really have some spin to them. Damaging wind threat, and that's when you can have your isolated tornado threat. Any of these little cells right into here to really develop in North Carolina, especially in Virginia, up into Maryland, and to southeastern areas of Pennsylvania. But we're getting into the afternoon to evening hours, and what I want to watch here is to see if a line of storms develops basically all the way from possibly North Georgia all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and really starts to march its way from west to east. So we'll kind of watch that here. That could pose a damaging wind threat anytime you have a straight line area of storms that always poses the risk for damaging winds. So I think tomorrow, in general, if you didn't see rain and really wanting to see rain today, I think a lot of areas that did not see rain today, especially like areas like the upstate of South Carolina, northern Georgia, and western areas of North Carolina, Virginia, things like that. Today was more of a south to north flow. for the Eastern Carolinas up into Virginia. You didn't see a lot much further west than that. So let's look at the NAM, because the NAM's a little different. We're getting into the NAM tomorrow. It shows a lot of convection early on in Virginia and the areas that are supposed to see the worst weather, which is Virginia into Maryland into Pennsylvania, even areas of New Jersey. But there's a lot of convection around. There's a lot of moisture. You gotta watch that. But check out this big surge of moisture that's riding up through South Carolina into North Carolina, the same areas that saw a good bit of rain today. But if you look, you don't really see that line of storms that gets developing right here like the HRRR model does. So it's definitely not more of a widespread look, especially for areas more west. So let's see who wins this battle. The HRRR model is doing really well early on in severe weather season, but it's kind of taken a couple losses as of late. But what you got going on, this is 850 wind speed, so it's basically wind energy. Get a low level jet that pops up and it really strengthens tomorrow afternoon and evening over that area where there's a slight risk. So what that does is put some juice to the air as far as wind speed. So that's what's posing a big time wind threat with these storms. That little bit of action is going to help to promote a little bit of a tornado threat. Not much, but there's going to be a risk of tornadoes tomorrow. So we'll watch to see what really kind of materializes for that. As far as CAPE, it's nothing wild or crazy or anything. You have CAPE anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram surface CAPE, so that's plenty enough CAPE to get some storms firing up. And really, supercell parameter here, nothing too crazy, but it does show you the risk early in the afternoon for some renegade, basically some more discrete storms that could have a spin to them. As you know, a supercell is a rotating thunderstorm, so I have to watch that. As far as your moisture feed, there will be no shortage of that. Dew points will be in the 60s to pushing near 70 all the way up into the southern areas of New England, so there will be plenty of surface moisture at bay here for to really add some juice to the atmosphere. You don't really worry about that as you get later into the year. As far as surface temps, you will have a spike of higher temperatures. It will stay a little bit cooler up here, but with such a moist surface, you don't really need a ton of high temperatures, if you know what I mean. So like even if you have only high temperatures in the 70s, if you have dew points in the 60s, that's plenty moisture. And so we'll have to see if the sun comes out in this area right here tomorrow. If you can get a break in the clouds, temperatures will soar into the 80s, and that's really going to add some fuel to the fire here and fuel to some storms right in this area. So tomorrow, big risk of mainly damaging winds, but there will be an isolated tornado threat, and there's always going to be that risk of hail too. But with lower lapse rates, I don't see huge hail being a big threat here. But that's all I got, guys. Just be pretty much weather aware across the entire East Coast tomorrow, as storms are going to be firing up all across the area. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a great night.